Hey Dave, how are you?
I'm good.
That is a cool
Night.
looking studio.
Yeah. Well, spend quite a while in here, so it's got to be kind of groovy.
Yeah, are they Christmas lights?
Hmm.
You still got them rocking?
No, well, no, I mean, they're not. They're just there all the time.
Oh, are they? Oh,
I'm a big fairy light fan.
oh, are you?
I take them with me to studios and everything. Like I've got bags of them. Like
Really?
vibe it up a bit.
Oh, cool. There was. I remember someone telling me a story. I think it was Phil Brown, where they in Talk Talk when they recorded Spirit of Eden, they had this projector constantly on the wall to make it look like it was like
Yeah.
one of those oil projectors. And then when
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
they decided to mix the album, said, "Oh, let's put it backwards." And then when they put it backwards, they're like, "Nah, that's not the same." So they put it the same way again.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have a bag of various light fittings and stuff that I
Oh,
go and
cool.
hang around the place.
Oh, cool. So how's all with you? All good?
Yeah, yeah, madly busy, which is great.
Yeah.
Really lucky.
You're doing the new Manix record, is it?
Uh, yeah, the new Manx record is in the writing stage. Yeah, so we're doing demos for that.
Oh, okay.
Uh, yeah, and there's like six other albums, which
Oh,
is crazy.
six other like not Manic
Uh,
albums.
no, no,
Oh,
no,
so I was like,
no,
wow, going full throttle there.
no. Various things like French album, a Belgian album. The new Jamie Webster record, which is amazing. A singer-songwriter from Newcastle called Andrew Cushion, who's amazing as well. Loads of stuff.
Class. Hey, so you like do you mix those all you don't do much like stuff with tape now? Is it just all in the box?
Um, it's kind of combinations thereof. I mean, I still miss tape like hell.
Yeah.
But Roger Mayer,
Oh
who was
yeah.
Hendrix's tech, has a process called 456, and I have 16 channels of that. So literally
Wow.
everything I record goes through the 456, and the mix is all through the 456. So for me, it solved the problem of the lack of tape.
Really? Are they like the lunchbox ones?
I've got eight of the lunchbox ones, I've got two of the stereo ones, and I've got four in my camps.
Wow, man. Yeah, I always wonder what they sound like. See, I
They're
never
amazing.
see. I don't know. So I don't know when people say tape. I have no idea. I know tape from like listening to records, but I don't know actually.
The,
I don't know.
the
I
thing that
haven't worked with
tape
tape.
did
Yeah.
that I mean there were lots of pains in the arse about tape,
Yeah.
noise and wow and flutter and work. I mean the workflow was really good actually because it forced you to make decisions.
Right.
So there's that. We can't get that bit back, but the big thing is that it made things really punchy.
Wow.
And the way what proved it to me was I shared a Manix album with Steve Albini. He did 3 weeks in Rockfield with him, and then I went down and finished it. And there were still five songs to record, so we just carried on with his same lineup on the tape machine.
Yeah. Was that
Because
Plague for
obviously he
Lovers?
Jonah for Plague Lovers, yeah.
Yeah, I'm play. Yeah.
And so he'd obviously recorded his on tape, but the band wanted the automation that was in Pro Tools and stuff, but
Ah,
they wanted to
okay.
carry on recording in tape kind of thing. So we just connected the outputs, the tape machine to Pro Tools kind of thing. And so we were recording on tape, and Pro Tools was just an input. And then when we had a take we liked, we transferred it to Pro Tools. But when I was getting levels to tape, I was just getting relatively conservative levels. No, nothing, I wasn't slamming the tape at all, kind of
Hmm.
thing. And the inputs in Pro Tools were reading out, kind of thing. But when we put the tape machine into play, nothing on the Pro Tools peaked above -8.
Wow.
So even just at conservative levels, you were getting 8 dB of limiting,
Wow.
which was why it was so punchy and so loud, you know.
Wow. That's
And that's
mad.
what the Roger Mayer process has given me back. Is that
Oh, class. So did you remix the whole Know Your Enemy that reissue that came out? Did you
I
remix
did?
all that? Man,
Yeah, the whole thing. Yeah.
that sounds incredible.
Thank you,
I thought
thank
it's
you.
like
Yeah, I mean that was a busman's holiday, if you like, because I was never happy with the mixes that we did. I knew we'd made good decisions when recording, and then some terrible decisions when mixing, kind of thing.
right.
We'd spent a long time. We'd lost perspective. The band were in a frame of mind where like they'd just done 2 million sellers, and they were being written about in the press like Genesis were written about when they first started, kind of thing. This sort of behemoth in the mainstream kind of thing, and they wanted to react really strongly against that, and went too far. We did, and I'm like their little brother, so I wasn't like the fatherly producer that could put an arm around their shoulders and say, guys, it's all right, like it was like, more distortion, more distortion, let's do that, so it was just, there were a few mixes on that record that I just can't listen to, they're so bad, they're just terrible mixes,
Why was
so
that?
when the opportunity
Was it just time or just the vibe?
No, not time at all. We were in Abbey Road Studio 3.
It's definitely not that so.
Yeah, it really wasn't. No. The buck stops here. I should have pushed back more. They were pushing for it to be more and more indie and more fucked up.
Right.
And I just did it, and I shouldn't have.
Okay, because it's
so the remix is how it should have been. That's what it should. That's what it should have sounded like. We should have had more confidence that the songs were how they were anyway, and that we didn't need, that it wasn't a mainstream record anyway. We didn't need to make it all fucked up sounding in order for that to be okay.
Well, it's like I always kind of liked that record. I never loved it, but I loved the two. I love the actual I think that's...
Well, again, the 2 was how it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
It makes much more sense like that.
Yeah,
the
sure.
Sort of, the more elegiac side and the more sort of spiky political side. When those are sort of mashed up on the record and it goes from one to another, it's quite disconcerting at times.
The fact that Rosebud was left off the original one,
they're just the most mental, one of the most mental decisions they ever. I mean, there's a song called "Prologue to History" that was a B-side on "If You Tolerate This." That they set the record straight, and that should have been on "This Is My Truth," and that got put on the the remaster of "This Is My Truth" got "Prologue to History" put on it. But yeah, no, there's the two insane decisions. Yeah, and it's not like we recorded Rosebud as a B-side or anything. I mean, like we worked really hard on that song, and then they just fell out of love with it. I just
really, wow.
I mean, to not even use it as a B-side. Pretty
I know.
Mental.
When I first heard it on the review, I was like, dude, what was that left off? That's a fucking class song.
Crazy.
Yeah,
really crazy.
Jesus. Like, it's crazy though, some of the songs that the Manics have, like The Masses Against Classes was like #1. Like that, like from a lyrical perspective, that song was #1, like just amazing. You'd never... The sad thing is...
It was the first #1 of the millennium.
Yeah.
They'll never take that away from us.
Well, I think it's sad that songs like that will never... I'm not going to say never, but in the current climate, there's no like...
That's not going to be a #1 single these days, is it? Let's face it.
It's just... Yeah. How do you feel about like the current music state?
Well, the way I see it is like if you call what we do rock and roll kind of thing, if you to group this kind of music into one sort of church, as it were, like if you look through history, classical, baroque, romantic, they all had their time, and rock and roll was probably the predominant musical force from 55 to 2005, say, and then started falling away, kind of thing. So, we had our fun, I guess, and new things have to come along, and sometimes, when I listen to the radio, or especially when you go into clothes shops, you just want to stick knitting needles in your ears, But that I'm old. I'm 52, So it's like that's how it's supposed to be,
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
I just when I hear some new shit, I'm like, what the fuck is that, man? I'm just like,
sometimes my son's got a good code for a lot of modern bands, like especially. Is like, oh God, it makes me sound like such an old man. But like, he's 22, and I say, oh, have you heard the so and so record? And he'll say, yeah, good vibe. It's like it sounds great, but there's no fucking song. That's kind of our code for no song.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good vibe.
Does he listen to like records? Or does he just...
Yeah, he's vinyl only, yeah.
Oh, okay, that's cool. That's cool.
He's Dylan and Cohen. Like, he's
right.
Yeah, no, I've never met a more encyclopedic Dylan fan than my boy.
Really? Are you Dylan fan?
Yeah, I mean, of course, but like not to that extent. Like,
so he knows shitloads about Dylan.
He really does, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so what were you listening to when you were growing up? What was your What was your?
I would love to say it was Dylan and Cohen, but I was a teenage metalhead.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, badass, man.
Yeah, well, me and the Manics bonded over Appetite for Destruction. That was
yes.
absolutely sort of year zero for both of us in terms of like attitude and sounds and production as well. It was the first record I listened to where I really knew that it was Slash in one speaker and Izzy in the other, and listening to that interaction and the way the record was put together, and wanting to do that.
Yeah. What about Rush? They love Rush too. Were you a big Rush fan?
I mean, they've educated me in the ways of Rush.
Good.
I mean, I met my wife in a heavy metal club like 34 years ago this year, and they used to play Spirit of the Radio every week, and I used to love that kind of thing. I used to love. Okay. I suppose I'm a bit of a pop kid, so sometimes the sort of 8-minute, ones can get a little bit like okay. But I love that. I love Tom Sawyer. I love the, I like the,
yeah,
like the hits.
They're like a band that's we're always shitted on, and now they've kind of got to that stage where people really like them. It's like I always noticed they were kind of.
I mean, as players, it's like
incredible.
There's probably only 3 or 4 other bands that ever reached anything close to that level of technical ability.
Yeah, definitely mainstream as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe Primus maybe kind of has that kind of.
Yeah, maybe. Well, Zeppelin in their own way. I mean, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. But I mean, they make even Muse look like amateurs, don't they? It's just ridiculous what they can do.
Muse, what's happened, Muse?
Great singles band.
Oh, that's some good albums, though, man. That's some fucking.
Oh yeah, no, they did. Yeah, they did. The first one they did with Rich Costey, Absolution. That's a brilliant record, and the one after that as well.
Origin of Cemetery is good too. They did.
Yeah, it's great. Plug-in Baby's amazing.
Yeah, Dave Buttrell. That was fucking class, man. So, can you say anything about what the new Manic stuff sounds like, or is that like, no, you're not allowed to say it?
Oh yeah, because it's still evolving.
Yeah,
because the writing's coming. Like it is in the mid stage kind of thing. So yeah.
Do you think they're? I know it might sound like a stupid question, but do you think they're kind of underrated? I know they're a very lauded band, but I do think
I do. I do
too.
because I think because they're clearly one of the actual greats. Like they're the band in the even in the 90s, they're the band in the 90s with the most consecutive top 40 singles. And they went on to even or just as much success in the following decade, and they're still having number 1 albums now.
Yeah,
I mean there just aren't that many bands that in history that have gone on for 30 years and are still making number 1 records and still making people talk about them. There aren't any bands that have had a number 1 single about the Spanish Civil War that have got the breadth of, a song about intellectual arrogance in Faster to a song about the dignity of the working classes just in the space of 2 albums.
Yeah, for sure.
It's, their intelligence is so ridiculously... I can't really think of another band that have put another successful band that have put that amount of their intellect into the lyrics and been that successful. Do you know what I mean?
Were you like a fan of them before you worked with them? Or
I was the T-Boy on their first indie single. So.
Class, man. So from T-Boy to working on how many albums? 10?
Oh, I've lost track.
Okay.
Yeah, I think all of them except the Holy Bible and Lifeblood and Futurology. So, but in to varying degrees. On Everything Must Go, I just mixed Australia and produced No Surface or Feeling. So that's obviously Mike Hedges' album. Kind of.
I loved Lifeblood. People hate that, and I'm like, that's fucking cool, man.
Did you know what? That's come around again. That's come around. Yeah, in the fandom. That's a weird word, but in the fandom, Lifeblood is definitely its stock has risen.
Yeah, maybe sonically it wasn't as it was very kind of it had a sonically.
Which was just really. They were going for that kind of 80s, more programmed thing, I mean, in terms of it, it's a brilliant record.
The songs are incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just the at that time, that was exactly when Franz Ferdinand hit. And it was a really big deal, Franz Ferdinand, at that time. And if you were from before that, you were old, Daddy-o, and you're boring. kind of thing. And it was just, I had a few bands released that year. Idlewild as well suffered with that, released a brilliant record that year. And, it was, largely speaking, ignored because there was a whole new wave of bands coming through that were all the post-punk things, Future Heads,
Right.
all of that was just really big turnaround in like 2005 or whenever it was.
Yeah, that's good. And Rewind the Film. I think that's an amazing record too. I think that's
Oh,
I
it
think
is.
that's one of their best films. One of their best albums. I think it's a beautiful record.
It's beautiful. It is a beautiful record. Yeah, absolutely.
What was it like recording that?
I didn't record that one. I just
did you not?
again that one I just did. I mixed Rewind the Film, and one other song on that record. No, that was Guy Massey mixed most of that. Who's a
okay.
very, very close friend, and definitely in the Mannix family, as it were.
Does it take you long to mix stuff with the Mannix? Is there loads of like you send it and they change stuff and you change it, and then how does that work?
Well, I mean, historically we were all in the same room, but now it's a little bit more.
Oh, right.
As they've got older, they've got more and more. But yeah, back in the day, it was incredibly detailed.
Okay.
Whereas now, they're more prone to, if it hits them in a good way, to just go with it, kind of thing. To like trust their instincts a little bit more in that way, rather than James and me in particular were very obsessed with detail.
Okay.
To a like really large degree, kind of thing.
Okay, really.
And, Nicky is much more holistic.
Okay, I get it. So, like, when you're mixing stuff, are you mixing? Is it like you're kind of a hybrid?
It's a hybrid system. Yeah, it's
Right.
Analog mix bus, summing amp, but ultimately it's in the box. But lots of hardware inserts and stuff, especially for drums. All the drums are done analog, really.
Right.
In and out. Through lots of different parallels and distortions and various fun stuff. And then that all gets mixed in the box, and then ultimately it all goes out to a 16-channel summing amp, and that goes to a stereo bus.
Okay.
Bus compressor, EQ, the 456.
Right. What's your bus
Once
compressor?
I've been through that, there's no more plugins, kind of thing.
Okay. Do you do you oversample on plugins and stuff like that? Or are you arsed with that kind of shit?
For that, anything distortion-y needs to be over.
Yeah. Because okay, all right, cool. Why drums do you mostly do analog stuff on? Is it just that digital has that kind of awful?
Because it's more fun. Because it's more fun. I mean, it just is. I mean, like, there are some things that I can't get in the box. Lots of people can,
Yeah.
I've just, I really love chucking stuff out through, compressors and stuff, old radio compressors and, transient designers. And, I just find it quicker and easier that way.
Right.
And everything that goes out comes back through 456. So I never hit a converter without hitting 456 first.
Okay. So you're kind of like running, it's like tape. You're kind of running like using that. They're using the Myers like a tape.
And it makes it like all those spikes just are gone. And so so it makes the mix analog loud, what I call analog loud. I don't use it, I don't need any digital limiting because the 456 is doing it all for me, and it's much more punchy and in your face.
That's class, man. Yeah, I heard. People have said to me they're class. I use one of these. What do you call them? Oh Jesus, Elisa. It's like it's a saturator, but it can be a bit too much. Like it can lean like below the fucking roof.
This is a different pro. It's what Roger's thing is that it's the anti-aliasing filter that fucks everything up, and you can't do sampling without an anti-aliasing filter. Like you have to do that, but it creates phase smear from 5K up, kind of thing, and that can be that's nothing to do with the expense of the converter. Like it's the same in a Lavry as it is. Once you're chopping audio up into chunks and you're using an anti-aliasing filter, by the time it gets through that and into the box, in his opinion, and he's quite an opinionated man, it's already fucked, kind of thing. And so his analogy is, if you take a beautiful analog photograph with film and you scan it into a computer, it's still beautiful, but it was on the film first, kind of thing. And his contention is that tape itself, by pure fluke, the high frequency limiting that it does, alleviates that problem with the anti-aliasing filter. It just so happened. So when they were first doing CD, and it was 1982, and they were saying, look, here's Bob Marley off CD, and it sounds amazing, doesn't it? And it did, because they were taking it off the 1/4-inch tape, so there weren't these problems. His contention is that when we went to all digital, that was the problem, kind of thing. So his thing, and I love this phrase, is you have to present the converters with something beautiful.
That's a good way, isn't it?
So like it's been on film, kind of thing. So, and then once it's in the box, then you haven't got those problems, and you can do what you want with it. But I've found that to be 100% true. It's not one of those processes where you put it in and you go, oh my God. It's one of those processes where you record everything through it, and then the following day you're balancing it, and you're like, this is really easy. It sounds great. It's like a cumulative process, kind of thing.
So it's like subtle.
I mean, it is impressive on the mix bus. It's impressive. Like, you don't have to, you have to get your levels right. You have to hit it like tape. It's like 0VU and all of that. But if you're hitting it right, you watch your digital meters, you put the process in, and the meters go down and the volume goes up.
Wow.
And that's quite impressive.
It's magic right there. Hey?
It's an incredible thing. It changed everything for me. It was really, really important.
Wow. So before that, what were you using to were you trying to get a tape sound before that? Using plugins?
Yeah, I mean, plugins, which just don't do it. Because like I say, Roger would say, you're already fucked by the time you're trying to use a plugin. So, I'm not technical enough to understand all the details, but it bears out in real world, definitely.
Yeah. How do you think it's going to work with like AI? There's a lot of AI plugins coming out that can kind of algorithmically do stuff.
But I mean, his thing is, by the time you've gone to an AI plugin,
yes,
you've been through the anti-aliasing filter and you're already playing catch up.
Okay.
Kind of thing. You've already fucked your audio.
Okay. So they're all just bullshit kind of things.
No. You know what? There's loads of amazing plug. Like the one I'm thinking of is that tape, TAIP. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's
Baby
really,
audio.
really good.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. I love that on bass. Just realised I didn't use that on this whole album. That was just, and I should have. No, anyway, it's great. It's great. There's loads of brilliant. I like all of the stuff, all of the toys. The stuff that sounds good is the stuff I like. But I'm a big believer in if you're going into the computer, you have to get it right at source, kind of thing, and then you're going to be winning.
Do you think that? Do you think that's a big thing with, like, we'll say, people of my generation? They kind of fix it in the mix, and they're kind of playing catch up constantly because they don't actually record something perfectly, or not perfectly, but like record it.
No, I like to when I'm recording, when I'm producing a record, like at all times, I need it to sound like a record. I need it to sound in context completely. And I got that from the Manics, to be fair. James forcing me to just constantly contextualize everything. Like, instead of just racing forwards, just getting everything so it's, this is how it's going to be. Not like, oh, we'll fix that later, but this is how it's going to be. Everything right at every step of the way. And then you can constantly make good decisions. If everything's out of context all the time, then you're throwing the dice,
Yeah. How long did it take to do his Even in Exile record?
Again, I only mixed that one.
Yeah. Well, you didn't record that.
I think add, prod, and mix. No, that was the brilliant Loz Williams, who is their right hand man at their studio. Loz is amazing. I think a few weeks. Not a ridiculous amount of time.
You don't like labor on the snare for like 10 days like that?
I do. It's only the snare. That's all I hear when
I hear
it's a lifelong obsession that I really, really try to not, but can't. So
isn't it weird? Isn't it weird how snares, you listen to a song and you're like going, that fucking snare. Just like...
I can listen to the whole of Black Hole Sun and never hear anything but the snare because it's so unbelievably beautiful.
Really?
Heartbreakingly beautiful, the snare on Black Hole Sun.
Wow.
Every time it hits, I'm like, and in Bloom's the same. You're like,
yeah, man. That's fucking. Yeah. Did you ever hear those mixes that Butch Vig did for Nevermind. They kind of re-released them. They were a lot more raw than the.
I haven't heard them.
Yeah,
I love the mix of Nevermind so much. I almost didn't want to, kind of
yeah,
thing. Like,
yeah. They're
I liked hearing the extra mixes that Scott Litt did on In Utero. Liked hearing his
I
mix.
didn't hear them.
Yeah, he did Penny Royalty as well,
Oh,
which wasn't the one on the record, kind of thing. They went with Albini's on the record for Penny Royalty,
okay.
but it's Scott Litt's mix of All Apologies and Heart Shaped Box, I think.
Ah,
And that was it. You know, obviously they're more contained, kind of thing.
yeah.
Slightly less wild, but brilliant all the same.
I think In Utero's their best record. I know that's probably not a.
I'm inclined to agree. I mean, I love them both though for different reasons.
Yeah.
Nirvana kind of, yeah, they were a very, very important band for me. So
Really, were you a huge Nirvana fan? Yeah.
absolutely enormous Nirvana. I can show you the bit of tarmac I was driving over when I first heard the chorus of Teen Spirit, and it was just like, shit, I've got to throw away all my records.
Really,
It was
really.
Like, oh, it was big. I was the right age, you know. It was 91. I was 20, you know.
Wow. So you can like vividly remember when you first time you heard it?
Vividly remember.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
God, yeah. Oh, yeah. Really? Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
So was it just the radio and it came on? You were like, what the fuck is
No,
that?
my wife played it to me off cassette. She
No
was like, you got to
shit.
hear this new band. I was like, fuck.
Wow. Shit, man. I'd love to. I was too young for at that age, but you know, like that's what I think is kind of missing. Is just there's, I don't know, when an album came out, even when I was a kid, you know, there was time of Krang magazine and stuff like that. It was kind of
Yeah.
like it was like shit. You go, dude, did you hear that fucking record? And then you were like, oh, I'll fucking give you a cassette or a CD, and that's kind of lost now
But
because
it's,
everything's
well,
so
only
accessible.
because, and this again, I don't want to sound like an old man at all, but there's just so much competition for young people's time. Do
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like before my time, you know, already by my time, we had loads more to do. But in the 70s, you know, there was fuck
yeah,
all. Certainly in the 80s, you know, people didn't have any money. It was a miserable fucking time, and you know, like you buying an album was like a really big. It was also a really big expense. So you'd quite often have. Like you'd have four mates and all agree to buy one record and then go around to each other's house and you just listen to that and pore over the lyrics. But now there's like video games and so many, you know, and social media and blah blah blah, and so but music's a soundtrack to stuff now rather than
yes.
an art form. That obviously there's lots of people that listen to it as an art form and are really obsessed with the lyrics and it changes people's lives and all that, but to a lesser degree. You know,
Yeah,
the majority of people, it's a soundtrack to another activity. You know,
yeah,
which is a shame, you know, obviously, but
yeah. Background music. That's
stuff,
kind of, isn't it? Like they're playing video games and kind of that kind of shit.
yeah,
Yeah, you're like it's kind of because there's something classed about like, you know, just diving into a record. I don't know. We were the same when you get a record and some of the songs you're like, I don't really like that song. And by the end of like a few plays, you're like, oh man, that's my favorite song on the thing.
yeah, well, you know, for sure, and like in the like records were expensive,
Yes, yes, they
and so
were.
if you'd committed to buy it, you were committed to like it. Do you know what I mean? So, like, if you were disappointed on the first listen, you dug in. Do you know what I mean? Because, like, you just spent like a really big percentage of your weekly income on something, you know. So you were motivated to like it, kind of thing. So, like, if you just stream it and it's free, you know, if it doesn't hit you immediately, then you just move on to the next thing. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
Which I think has an impact on the way that music is written even and made, because you have to grab people's attention immediately, or you have to understand that that's something, you know, you're not going to be able to have a 3-minute rambling intro.
Yeah, and labels are just like they kind of. I don't think labels invest in much in new bands anymore. They kind of see how many followers do they have, and then we just nap them.
It's really that. It's really that, and TikTok stars. You know,
Yeah, that shit's
quick
great.
buck,
Yeah,
buck.
I don't know. Maybe I'm too old now. I don't fucking know. I don't get it.
TikTok's fucking huge at the labels. You know,
Is it? Yeah.
they're making all their money from streaming. All of their money from streaming. They are printing money right now, and how much of that is getting to the artist is questionable.
But that's the thing. Like even Spotify has
It's all under the table deals with Spotify, and it's
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
the
yeah.
Wild West. It's back to the mid '60s. You know, like
Yeah. Spotify have this.
I mean, the Beatles had like 2%. Or so, you know, I mean, like his '60s deals are hilariously awful. You know, like
100%.
it's just like crazy figures, crazy figures. I don't know the details, but crazy figures. It was Peter Grant, Led Zeppelin's manager, that started sorting out the deals.
Right.
You know, prior to Peter Grant, like when bands played a gig, they were just paid a fee by the venue. And the venue
Okay.
kept everything else. And Peter Grant was the one that said, if you want Zeppelin, we're going to take 80% of the door. And if you don't want us, we
Shit.
won't come.
Wow. It's kind of swung around the other way now. It's like you're getting
Yeah.
screwed if you're an artist because it's so fucking hard. Like it's
On recording, I mean, there is a path. If you're like an indie, if you're self-releasing indie
yeah.
and you are getting lots of streams, like you can make money. It is $5,000 or $5,000 roughly per million streams.
Yeah.
So if you're an indie act and you're getting 3 million streams,
yeah,
you know, across a record kind of thing, that's some money. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, and you're
yeah,
getting
yeah.
100% of it. That you can make a living doing that kind of thing. It's quite hard to get to that level, obviously, but I know a few bands that do well out of it. But once you're on a major, that money's just getting kind of subsumed, and Spotify appear to do these like payments to majors in advance,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So that money just goes into the pool, and then, you know, the magic accountants do the stuff. And, you know, yeah, what was it?
Shit.
Julio Iglesias, no, his son, Enrique Iglesias, like audited his label because he'd had like 500 million streams of this song and he didn't make any money at all. It's like, it was something like that. Again, details are not my strong point, but it's bad. It's really bad at the moment
Yeah.
in the major label world, I think.
And it's getting worse
I'm-
because Spotify did this thing of the other day. They announced like you can get in discovery mode now, but we'll take more of your royalties. You're like, what the fuck, dude? You're like, that's.
And
like
it's, I mean, the
Eringa.
songwriting thing is the really big deal. I mean, like at least there is a path to make money, like by making records. But the writers get like 2%. It's insane. Like publishing used to be the golden goose. It was like if you had the publishing, wow, you were really going to make money, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But now songwriters are fucked.
Yeah.
Like really fucked.
Plus, it's weird when you see like a song by Beyonce and it's got 15,000 writers and 10,000 producers.
Oh yeah, that's crazy. That is crazy.
I wonder how that happens. Does one guy go, "Here, I have a line," and he goes, "Yeah, give me that line." It's just I don't even.
They do these songwriting camps, like that level of artists, the Rihannas and the Beyoncés. They like rent massive houses in upstate New York or wherever, and they have like literally tens of, sometimes hundreds of writers kind of all working in little studios. And I heard that Beyonce does like 100 songs for an album. And she'll sing them all, kind of thing. And then it's picked from that kind of thing. So people will cross collaborate. And, you know, if it's a hip hop thing, then there's a beat, and that beat might have been written by like 5 people. And then there'll be like writers on the, you know, the top line writer, and, you know, obviously Beyonce herself. And then you've got your lyricists, and, you know, it's just a lot. And the producer, they always get they always manage to, you know, write it, you know, whatever. So, it's a different world. It's a different world. That's why Billie Eilish was really refreshing, because it's her brother, and the mixer, and that's brilliant. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think that record, the first one she did, sounded class. I thought it was
It's
really
incredible, absolutely incredible.
The low end on that was fucking killer, man.
Amazing. Yeah. Absolutely amazing. And she's a star. And the vocal and the way they use that whispery vocal is fucking great. And she's a brilliant singer anyway. But like the way she uses her vocal personality just pours out the speakers.
Yeah,
it's
not
a massive collaboration. It's like one fucking vision just coming right at you.
Yeah. There was that kind of thing when she won the Grammy. It was like, oh, she did it all in her bedroom. You're like, well, not really. She did it, but you know, there was a lot more people involved than just...
No, it's just her brother, and the mixer. And that's it.
Well, wasn't he? But he's a high-end mixer, though. He's not like some
He is
lad.
now. He is now. He was I mean, he's brilliant.
Yeah.
He's great. And of course, now he's
Was he not like?
as they get.
Was he not like a big mixer before that? No.
I don't think he was like he wasn't like one of the monster names. No.
Oh, really?
He was no Serban. No.
Oh, I thought he was kind of like just a big mixer.
No, that was his breakthrough record.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously brilliant, you know.
Yeah.
But and he obviously did that in a more studio environment. But when you read interviews with him, he's very graceful about it. He says that what he was given was brilliant. So he's not one of those guys that were like, yeah, I saved that record. It's a piece of shit.
I redid all the vocals on it.
Yeah, no, he's very graceful about it. So no, I think everybody just pulled their weight, you know.
Yeah. When you're mixing, do you because I know you're doing this so long now. Do you even reference stuff anymore, or did you ever reference anything?
Yeah, really, really a lot.
Yeah.
When I first built this place, and you're learning the sound of the room and things like that,
Ah, yes.
I used to do it a really large amount. Now every now and then I'll have a sort of a little check kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because if you've been working on something for a long time, you can lose track of where the top end is and things like that. So
Yes.
putting on something I know really well. I was lucky, like a couple of Manic's records I've done have been mixed by Chris Lord-Alge, who's amazing. And I shared my Roger Daltrey album I produced. Michael Brower did 5 of the mixes, and he's amazing. He's really, really amazing mixer. He elevated me definitely because I had to mix the other 5, and I was like, oh my god, I'm going to sound like a dick next to Michael, so I've got to raise my game. And I did. I just sat here like just for hours, like, well, how do I get that bottom end? It forces you to try new stuff, which was great. But that means I've got unmastered mixes from those guys, kind of thing.
Wow.
That's much more helpful than having a mashed up, commercial level master to compare to, kind of thing.
And their unmastered mixes, are they quite low in volume, or they're not like using limiters or anything like that?
They're blisteringly low. Oh. No, I mean, they're not using limiters. They're not, and that's what breaks your fucking heart. That's what makes the top guys is that they get all of this volume without mashing it. So you look at the file and you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, because it's just square. And then it comes out the speakers and it's like open and punchy and wide and, all the stuff it shouldn't be. Right. And you're just like, bastards. But, that forces you to learn, forces you to, that forced me to raise my game, to get to that level, hopefully, to get to somewhere near it.
So if you're mixing a Manic song, we'll say there's a Chris Lord-Alge mix on the album, do they want you to kind of, if that's, they don't have a template for the sound, they don't want you to, can you go like...
By that point, we're pretty particular when we're producing the record, kind of thing. So we'll send very good monitor mixes to him. We work a lot on the monitor mixes. So the sound, hopefully the sound is defined at that point, if you know what I mean. Okay. And Chris is bringing something sheeny, that'll be big and wide and exciting and loud. But the sounds hopefully are in place. But equally, if we've got, on those records, which were Send Away the Tigers, Postcards, and Resistance is Futile, there'll be a reason that I'm mixing those songs and we didn't get Chris to do it. So it will be a different thing, If we've sent him the big, wide rock anthemic ones, then I'll be mixing something that might be a bit more sort of spiky or something like that. Do you know what I mean? There'll be a reason.
Oh, okay. Have you a favorite Manic's record? Hard question.
It's tough. It's tough. Every one of them's a place in my life. I love Send Away the Tigers. I really do. And obviously Everything Must Go. Obviously the Bible. And obviously this is my truth was such a happy moment for us all. When Tolerate was number 1 and stuff like that. It was such an elatory time. It's hard to not tie all those things up together. I really enjoy Ultra Vivid Lament at the moment. I love that record.
Yeah, that's a nice record. I really like that record. It's got a cool atmosphere to it. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was very much what we were going for. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool. And so when you started working with them first, how did it get from you being a T-boy to actually?
Well, I was. So they did the heavenly version of I made the tea. They did Motown. They did Motown Junk. Yeah, it was good tea. It was good tea. Me and James definitely bonded on tea and Guns N' Roses. That was the thing. So then they came back to the same studio where I was the assistant for the heavenly version of You Love Us, and both of those I played Hammond on, kind of thing. I mean, with Motown Junk, it was a D chord. I knew where D was. It was like, we're not talking virtuoso Hammond playing here. It was, and I think there were 3 chords in You Love Us, so that was a big step forward kind of thing. But then they got their big deal with Sony, and they went with the brilliant Steve Brown to produce Generation Terrorist, and everybody loved Steve. He was really amazing. It was because he'd done She Sells Sanctuary for the Cult. He did the Love record, and they were massive Cult fans kind of thing, and so it made sense. And he was a brilliant producer for them at that time. He really made them think, and it was definitely him that made Motorcycle Emptiness happen, forced James to go back and rewrite bits. And and they were kind enough to still get me down to do bits of keyboards, and I was not a great and am not a great keyboard player kind of thing, and that's not me being self-deprecating, like I'm genuinely not kind of thing. But they had this romantic notion that I'd be like their Ian Stewart. Like, the Rolling Stones had Ian Stewart and they had Nicky Hopkins, and the difficult stuff was done by Nicky Hopkins, and Ian was their kind of sort of their brother in arms, as it were, sort of thing. And they had this romantic notion that I was that. I wasn't that. But we stayed in touch all through that whole process kind of thing. And Steve was really, really lovely to me when I came down, because they had a really good budget for that record. He could have had any keyboard player, and it would have been very easy for him to have just, I was a T-boy at the studio. It would have been very easy for him to think, oh, we'll just make it really awkward for this little dick, and then we'll get someone good in, kind of thing. But he didn't. Right. He was so kind to me. Like I got out to the organ on the first one. Obviously, I'm nervous, because I remember it was at Metropolis, and I'd never been to a studio that looked like that before. And I remember the tape op was like 8 foot tall and had like a polo neck on, and like was like, quite sort of, and I was like, oh, bloody hell. And he said, do you want a coffee? And I said, yeah, I'd love a coffee. He came back with an espresso. And this was like 1990, and I'd never seen, you didn't have Starbucks in the street. I'd never seen an espresso. I didn't know if he was taking the piss. It was this tiny little coffee. I'd come across London, it was raining, and I was like expecting a big mug of like hot coffee, fucking Nescafe. But no, I was like, what do I do with this? And so I was nervous, and I went out to the Hammond, and Steve Brown had taken the time to write "John Lord Was Here," because James had told him that I loved John Lord in Deep Purple, and it was just such a sweet gesture kind of thing, and he was really, really kind to me. So so all through that period, I stayed in touch with them, and their manifesto at that time was, we're going to sell 17.5 million. 17.5. It was always 17.5, and the reason for that was that's what Appetite sold at the time. Right, we're going to sell 17.5 million copies of our debut double album and then split up. That was the manifesto, right? So in order to do that, they had to make a glossy sounding record. They knew they had to compromise on the sound in order to do this thing. So the idea was the riffs of Guns N' Roses with the politics of Public Enemy kind of thing. And, if you're going to take that kind of politics to people on FM radio in 1990, you had to sound, a little bit slick LA rock kind of thing. Yeah. And so but that record took a long time to make. And during that period of time, Nevermind hit. And the world changed, so when Generation Terrorist came out, that had already happened, and it was really well received, and it did well, and Motorcycle was a hit, and and all of that, but I think they felt like they'd compromised a little bit sonically, without needing to, perhaps. In retrospect, hindsight's 2020 and all of that. And that's no reflection on Steve at all, who was just fucking brilliant. He was doing what they wanted him to do, So I think when they came to their second record, they wanted more control kind of thing. They wanted a collaborator rather than a dad type producer who would put his arm around them and say, this is how it's going to be, lads. They wanted to have someone that they could mold with their, vision kind of thing. And I had obviously lied to them consistently about how much engineering I was doing, and so we we had a little tryout, and it went well. And then I did the demos for Gold Against the Soul, still with no real thought that would lead to obviously producing the record or anything.
Yeah.
And then they asked me to produce the record, which was I was 21 years old,
Wow.
and it was just a great break. And I was just too young and too stupid to be daunted by it. I just thought, yeah, that's probably how it happens. We'll just do that then.
Wow.
And so I just learned on the job. We had 9 weeks to do Gold Against the Soul in a really posh studio, which the record company charmingly said we could afford because they were saving so much money on me.
Brilliant. And at that time, were you still T-boy, or were you working on?
Well, I mean, I was by that time I'd moved from Power Plant, where we did Motown Junk. That had gone bust, and I was at the Kink studio called Conk in Hornsey.
Cool.
And on my very first day, I was brought in to assist on the Kinks album.
Wow.
And on my very first day, I shut Ray Davis's hand in the door by mistake.
Nice.
And he refused to work with me, and they'd already given me the job. So I ended up actually engineering a load of dance house mixes in the other studio. So I was actually very literate with the desk and with equipment. That forces you to use lots and lots of equipment and to know the sort of deeper aspects of desk type engineering kind of thing. So I was doing that a lot, So I was a capable engineer. And I was, I wasn't only making the tea, no, but how many bands had I recorded? Not bloody many.
That's cool. That's a cool story, though, man.
But I was very keen, and I was like, that was what I wanted to do with my life, and I'd always wanted to do with my life. So all of a sudden, I was just, let free in the toy shop, and I just got all the toys out and tried everything,
Class, man. So, like Ray Davies, you caught his hand. He wouldn't let you do the record.
And what it was, we were moving a one of the big screens, like a baffle.
Yeah.
For some reason, I don't know what, I can't, it's a long time ago, but I can't remember why. And Ray was like, help me move this. And he said, push. And I pushed. And his hand was in the doorway, and I pushed it onto his hand. I mean, it wasn't really my fault.
Yeah.
But he it was his guitar hand, obviously.
Not my hand. Oh, come on.
I mean, bless him. And he, went off, and he came back downstairs, and he had a big bandage on his hand, and he put his hand on the desk like that, and I was like, oh dear, I think I might have just fucked up terribly. And then he said he didn't want to work with me.
Oh man, what a dickhead! Jesus Christ.
Yeah. If you write Waterloo Sunset, you can do what you want, I guess.
What a song!
Yeah,
my God.
Exactly.
And that whole record, the Preservation
I mean, look, You Really
Society.
Got Me was like the first riff rock song, really, wasn't it? First song built around a riff. You could say he invented heavy metal, really.
Yeah, I love that Preservation Society record. That's such a cool record.
Amazing.
That's
so many great records.
Did you always know that you wanted to be an engineer as opposed to, like, we'll say, a musician?
Yeah.
Oh, you did, yeah. It wasn't just like, you fell to it that way. Really?
No, it's a weird story. I was 13. We didn't have many foreign holidays when I was a kid, but we did that year, and we went to Florida for 5 days.
Whoa,
which is a little bit odd to go,
hardcore.
to go for 5 days, but we did. We went to Florida for 5 days, and on the plane home, I was quite a precocious little kid.
Yeah.
And there was a guy with really long curly hair sat next to me on the plane, and I leaned over to him and said, "Has anyone ever told you look like Sammy Hagar?" And he said, "Oh man, well, me and Sammy are in the studio together. People can't tell us apart." And I was like, oh, and he'd done loads of these American metal records.
Right.
And he was a guy called Jeff Glixman, and I just talked his fucking arse off on the plane. Bless him. And I just got off the plane, and I just said, I want to do what that guy does. Oh, he was the coolest guy I'd ever met.
Wow.
I was just like, that's the guy. And so, when I got my job in Power Plant, 2 weeks after I started, having never worked in the UK before, he booked into the studio.
That
which is just a
strange.
nice little signpost from life that you're on the right path.
Wow. That is.
I
cool,
wasn't
man.
on the session or anything like that, but it was just nice.
Did you ever meet him after that?
Yeah, no, he was in the like in those days, big American producer. You didn't, but he was in the kitchen kind of thing, and I mentioned to him, and he was really nice. I couldn't tell whether he remembered or not. It doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah, kid, I remembered you.
Yeah, exactly. It was just, whatever American bullshit, but it's just fun, but it was just lovely, lovely to have that kind of okay, yeah, I think I'm on the right path here.
Wow, that's a cool story, man. Shit, man. It's that strange about life. It's like these little incremental things add up to these.
You have to
huge
notice
things.
notice the signposts and follow them. Yeah, that's the thing.
Wow, that's class, man. Shit. So the new records you're working on now, are you mixing them or are you recording them for other people? How's that work?
So no, yeah, at the moment I'm producing and mixing the new record for Jamie Webster. We're halfway through that. I am producing and mixing the Andrew Cushin record, which I'm literally working on today. And then I've got a record to mix for an amazing French artist called Calogero that I've done 5 records with. I think all of them have been #1 in France, kind of
Wow.
thing. But I'm a mixer in France, I'm very much a mixer for the French stuff I do. So I've got that to do, and then there's a Belgian thing. Like I say, the Manics are gearing up, but who knows where that's going at the moment, it's just,
Yeah.
And then there is there's a record by a band called Killer Star that have got some of Bowie's musicians in. That's quite interesting. Gaylan Dorsey and Earl Slick are playing on this record. And my son is a filmmaker, and he's made an amazing video for the first single on that record. Like a really amazing video.
Cool.
It's very, very cool. It's got this. The band didn't want to be in the video, so he had to do a narrative. And it's like a 12-year-old kid wakes up in the middle of the night and creeps downstairs and watches late night sci-fi flicks from the 50s,
Nice.
kind of thing, and he's like super
Nice.
excited, and like it's all like black and white and shonky sci-fi, and he's like watching it. He's in color, that's in black and white, and there's like a space captain and his glamorous assistant, and they like beat an alien, and then the captain looks out of the screen and sees the kid in the living room and beckons him in, and he gets
cool.
sucked into the telly and has adventures in space.
Oh, that's class, man.
It's really cool. It's really, really cool.
Wow. And when's that going to be out?
Later this year, I think. I've got I'm finishing mixing. They're delivering vocals soon, so I'm finishing mixing that by the end of this month, kind of thing. And then their plan will be whatever it is.
Cool. When you're like producing a record, are you kind of mixing kind of incrementally all the way along? Or?
With that one's a weird one. It was like that's not normally if you are just the mixer, you normally just get delivered the files, you do the mix, you send it to them, and then they say that's good or bad or whatever. With this particular lot, because they were doing lots of collaborations with musicians around the world, they would do their bit, and then they'd say, "Can you make that sound good so that we can send it to Earl Slick and it'll sound good for him to play to," kind of thing. So I'd do half the mix, and then they'd send it to their collaborators. They'd get all of these things and do the vocals, and then send it back to me, and I'd finish the mix, kind of thing. So that's just a different. Never done it that way before, but
Yeah. Have you seen Bowie live? Speaking of Earl Slick.
Did I see Bowie live before he went?
Yeah.
I didn't.
I did.
Gutted.
I seen him on
You
his
did?
last. Yeah, I seen him on his last tour. Maybe like 3 or 4
huge
months.
regret.
Dude,
That's a huge regret. You just don't think that he's going anywhere, do you?
I couldn't believe it, man. I actually couldn't believe when he died. I was like, "What are you talking about?"
And the world has gone to shit since Bowie left.
Dude, that's true.
The start of 2016.
True.
That's when it all fucking went wrong. Bowie was the fucking balance. I'm telling you, Bowie was the fucking balance in the world. And without his energy, we are fucked.
It's so true.
It's totally true. I've said this for years now.
I think you're right. You're onto something, man.
Did you see the movie last year, the Moon Age Daydream movie?
I watched like 10 minutes of it and then I got sidetracked.
That's not watching a movie.
No, but I must watch it. I must watch it.
And you had to see it in the cinema because the atmos was fucking amazing. It was so immersive. It was really psychedelic.
Right. Okay. Because I only seen it on like a VOD. I had like a copy.
No, it was really a cinematic experience. It was
really
yeah, and just like the early Ziggy stuff. I mean, you're looking at the outfits he's wearing. They're shocking now.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
1971. He
Yeah.
must have just been. This is a fucking alien.
Yeah.
Like. I mean, he's like, and his different coloured eyes, and the camera's just up his fucking skirt in these little knickers, and you're just like, fucking hell.
Yeah, man.
It must have been so amazing. And that movie sounds amazing as well. The live footage is just fucking brilliant. Yeah. He was a god. Bowie was a god. He was here amongst us, and he's left us.
No, man. I know Low was always my favourite Bowie record. But I think Black Star, actually, I know that's so.
Black Star's amazing.
I just think it's
sonically outrageous.
Dude,
Tom's mix is next level. Like it's so wide. It's like an Atmos mix, but out of stereo. Isn't it fucking insane?
What's your favorite Bowie record?
Probably is Ziggy, if I'm honest.
Really?
Or what's the one before?
Oh, Hunky Dory.
Yeah,
Hunky Dory's good.
I'm a pop kid.
Hunky Dory's good.
Fucking love Hunky Dory. It's just all bangers. It's got the Man Who Sold the World on it.
That's a heavy record, like the Man Who Sold the World.
Amazing record.
That's heavy. It's like a kind of, I don't know what it'd be like, but it's heavy.
I came to that through Kurt, obviously. Because
all from like the Unplugged.
That was what probably started my Bowie phase. Was
Really?
Yeah.
Shit.
Well, because I spent most of my childhood, listening to not as cool records.
Wow. When I was a kid, like no one was, I would say a kid, I mean 14, 15, everyone hated Bowie. Like I was like,
what?
Yeah. Like I get teased. They were like, oh, you like fucking David Bowie. It was around the time of like, we'll say Hours and that kind of thing. But kind of wasn't really kind of cool then. I think he got cool when he kind of just retired for like that, or not retired, but when he kind of went away. Yeah. Everyone was like, yeah, man, where's that guy gone?
Yeah.
I was like, he's cool. Like, yeah. So I went to Dave Bowie on my own, like a prick in a pinstripe suit. I looked like an
amazing.
I looked like a total idiot. You should have seen me. And there's a live DVD in Dublin, and I could see myself, and I'm like, oh fuck me, man. There I am.
Oh, brilliant! Oh, that's great. Do you know that story when he was making the Ashes to Ashes video? And like he was on the beach and he's in the clown costume.
Yeah,
you know that story when the guy just walked into the camera and the director was like, "Don't you know who that is?" And the bloke said, "Of course I do." He said, "Well, who is it then?" So it's a cunt in a clown suit.
That's too funny. His mother was in that video too.
Just walked away. Right. And Bowie said he was like, "Yeah, it's not wrong."
That's fucking funny. The Dandy Warhol supported him when I went to see him.
Oh, great!
And everyone started shouting up, "You're shit!" And they were like, "What?" Like everyone started shouting them, "You're shit!" Like everyone, because just people. It was fucking really weird. It was like, and the singer was like, "Shut the fuck up!" Like started giving off about it, and then more people started going, "Yeah, you are shit." It was like this weird bullying.
That's red rag when you react. When you react,
like, fuck, because everyone just wants to see Bowie. I mean,
yeah,
Bowie having
there are bands that are really hard to support. Manics are hard to support because they've got a very partisan audience,
Yeah. I seen the Manics. I don't know when, a long time ago, and someone was supporting them. We were like, "There's a Manics coming on." Yeah. I felt like I was at the Dandy Warhols again.
yeah. Supporting Bowie. Yeah, I mean. You're not going to blow him off, are you?
No, it's not like you're going to go, "We've got this one, lads."
Yeah, exactly. We've got better songs.
Yeah, I think we've got them.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one, that.
Yeah, man.
What are you going to do?
Yeah, what are you going to do? Anyways, on that lovely note, I think I've taken up enough of your time, man. Thanks so much for doing this, and I annoyed the shit out of you trying to do it. So
no problem. Don't be silly. No, it's a pleasure.
I appreciate you, man, for doing it. It means a lot to me for you to come on.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Looking forward to the new stuff, man. When's everything out?
No idea at this point. It's genuinely a process, So like, once all the demos are, they don't go into an album half cocked, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They need to know they've got everything. I think there's always the one extra. There's always, like, James is obsessed with the last one, like, and so there will be, like, the roll of the dice at the end, definitely, kind of thing. But 85% of it has to be locked in, kind of thing, and and feel confident that they've got the singles and stuff like that. So
there's just tons of you do a lot of pre-production, is it?
Well, because they've got their own studio and have had for years, that the studio is part of their process now, kind of thing. So it'll be, they'll be throwing demos back and forth. Sometimes I go down and do some with them. Sometimes they do them with Loz and they send them to me, and I'll throw back some ideas at them. And quite often, a fair bit of that stuff ends up on the actual record, and sometimes we just throw it all away and start again. But there'll be lots of playing with tempos and playing with, songs get completely rewritten as well. I think we did three versions of International Blue that were just completely different songs.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I think James wrote Faster 30 times. I mean, they're not all recorded, obviously, but, like, just he knew that the lyric was so important to them, and he just kept writing a song, and then the next day coming back and saying, no, not good enough, and starting again.
That fucking solo is great in that, man. That solo is so badass, isn't it? Yeah. That's one thing I want to ask before you leave. Do you record to clicks? But do they record to clicks, or how do they record?
So me personally, in my in all of my other productions, it's really song dependent and drummer dependent. If you've got a young drummer coming in doing their debut album and they haven't spent the time to learn how to play to a click, then that is not the time for them to learn.
Right.
I like music that speeds up in the chorus. Or
me too,
whatever.
man.
Obviously, there are times when it's inappropriate, but for me, I want music to breathe and live and to have idiosyncrasies. And fucking, we all love the Stones records. Sometimes Charlie just slows down for 20 BPM for a bar while he fucking, I don't know, has a shot of heroin or something. But I mean, like, we all love that. But, like, oh, we can't possibly do that now. You know what I mean? It's like,
I'm with you on
like,
that.
I'm, and also even with stuff that has to be programmed afterwards or whatever, like, it's so easy to build a grid in Pro Tools based on a performance and just do all of that. There's really, so I'll use a click when the song wants to be really regular, and when it doesn't, I'm really happy to do it without a click, kind of thing. And I got into this because I love musicians. And, like, the magic of people playing together. Yeah. And if they've just got ga 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 in their head, that's not fun, Having said all of that, Sean really did do the work at the beginning and learnt how to play to a click, how to push a click and be ahead of it, how to pull it and be in the pocket. And he likes a click. So if he wants tempo changes, he'll program them. And he is one drummer that really likes playing to a click.
Oh, right.
So he does, but that's not to say there's no tempo changes in Manic's tunes, because we'll just program that.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, so I have no answer to that question. I do try to change every working method to each project.
Yeah,
like we're trying to serve the song, like, as opposed to do the Dave Eringa method. You know what I mean? Like, there's it's evolving with an artist and working out how to get the best out of them.
Yeah. So I suppose it's like, I suppose it's like orchestras, isn't it? They always kind of play slightly behind the click.
Yeah. I mean, a great drummer. A great bass player will always be well behind, kind of thing. Like
a bass player,
the bass should never be ahead.
Oh yeah,
that's always be in the pocket. Like, for it to feel right. Kind of thing. That's the magic of music. Is the magic of people playing together. Is that humanity that isn't the grid? For me, I think the grid is the enemy of modern music. There is no like, music for me is like the very first thing you hear in your mum's tum is the heartbeat. It's like, it's music, it's rhythm, kind of thing. And when people get together and they create something that's more than the sum of its parts, that's when music really connects on a human to human level.
Yeah.
But if you then chop that up and make it correct,
Yeah.
then that humanity is gone. You could have programmed that,
Yeah. That's probably a big thing missing
from-
from a lot of modern records is that constant beat of like,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is,
I mean, we all love like Motown. That's just a band playing. There's no click. There's no like they're just playing it.
yeah,
And it feels amazing.
yeah, them records are fucking great, man.
Of course, yeah, of course.
I love what's going
Motown,
on.
if it was made in the same way today, wouldn't sound like that because it would be tuned and timed.
That's such a disturbing thought.
It is. It is. Imagine that. Imagine, saying to James Jamerson, "Oh, it's a bit behind. We'll just stick you on the bass drum." It's like, who?
We'll fix that. We'll quantize that. It's so
Yeah,
terrible, man.
I mean, obviously, there's a huge amount of the humanity is in the vocal performance and in the words and the connection kind of thing. But like the unspoken bit is in the groove, is in the interaction of the musicians.
Yeah, I remember I'd breakfast before randomly with Jimmy Chamberlain, the Smashing Pumpkins, and he was saying
What fucking drama.
Oh my god! I was like, dude, did you play it to clicks? He's like, nope, never played to clicks. It's the odd time, and now which is weird. I hear the new stuff, and it's so gridded. You're like, dude, what? Fuck, man! I'm like doing that to Jimmy Chamberlain.
I mean, the one time he did, I guess, was 1979. And,
yeah,
it's their best record.
Yeah, but to grid to be played to a click for that guy, it's blasphemy.
It would be mad for Cherub Rock or Today or Disarm.
Oh, God, they had some great records.
But yeah.
Anyways,
yes.
Sorry, man. I'm totally taking up your time.
Not a problem.
I appreciate it, man. Hey, thanks so much for doing this, and good luck with all the records, and have a great week.
Thank you.
Cheers, brother.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.